Welcome, you have reached Imperial Reviews, and today's review is the Deliverance. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Let's get into it. This movie, in the spirit of the weather's starting to change and Gary going to the fall season, I would have rather seen this movie come out the end of September, going into maybe Netflix couldn't give it that release date, but the end of September, right on October 1st, somewhere around there, so that it can get the push for that season of Halloween. Because this is definitely a good horror thriller. It has a slow burn in the beginning, so it can, get character development, build up. But once it gets to going, this is right on line with uh, thriller horror, demonic possession movies. This is right on par with that. It's just you rarely see these type movies where you see a black cast produce these type of movies and actually be decent enough to follow through. You typically don't see these type movies. Normally when you see Exorcism, The Omen, and Amityville Horror, it's mostly with a base with a white cast or whatever, but you rarely see where it's a black cast. So if anybody really chilly, just if you're into horror thriller films and you watch the film and you're not looking at the color part of it and you're just watching the film, I can't see how you're not looking at this movie saying that it's not a decent film. It's just that when it comes to horror, you don't really tie that into a black cast. Majority of horror films, when if you think of most people top 10 or top 5 horror films, it don't have anything to do with a black cast or whatever. And during my time, the biggest horror that had anything tied to like a black cast is Candyman. And after that, and then the remix was terrible or whatever. I don't view what's that Jordan Peele, that wasn't really hard to me. Then was it us, and then the other one Get Out, that's not hard to me or whatever. But other than that, let's get into the film. Just had to get that out the way. And this is a Netflix original. Shout out to Lee Daniels that he pulled this one. This was decent. He pulled this one off. And I normally don't watch demonic films per se, but I gave it a shot. So let's go over a brief summary. An Indiana family discovers strange demonic occurrences that convince them that their community, that the house is a portal to hell. So let's go over the cast members. You got Andra Day plays as Ebony. You got Glenn Close plays as Alberta. Khalid McLaughlin plays as Nate. He's from Stranger Things. Anthony B. Jenkins plays as Andre. Demi Singleton plays as Shantae. Ojanu Ellis Taylor plays as Reverend Bernice James. Omar Epps plays as Melvin. He's just a cameo. Monique plays as Cynthia Henry. She's with the Child Protective Service. And that's pretty much it. You got Tasha. She's in here. She plays as the Reverend, but whatever. She just cameo. So of course the film starts off with church. They're in church, and the grandmother, played by Glenn Close, the grandmother, her name's Alberta. She's in church, and they're in this town, and they're into the house, and you right off the bat, you start looking at some weird things where you're seeing Alberta, who's white, and she's in this around this family that's all black, and so that's setting the tone right there. And you see her talking to her daughter Ebony, and they instantly got some back and forth. Now throughout the film you find out that there's a history. Now, Ebony has a drinking problem. She has 3 kids. The dad is in the military, so she has a messed up relationship with the dad, and she's trying to raise these kids, trying to make ends meet, and she's struggling. The grandma comes in to help. You find out that the grandma is dealing with chemotherapy, and she is supportive of her daughter, but the grandma comes from abusive being motherhood as well, so she pushed that on to her daughter. Her daughter's a drunk, has an alcohol problem. So you pick those things up right away. Now they're in this house, and right off the back, you start seeing creepy things start happening, and they never go into the basement to see what's up in the basement, and they smelling foul things from the basement, but nobody never went and checked in the basement or whatever. So, don't know why. Eventually, you find out that it's a black dead cat down in the basement. Why nobody never looked into that? Who knows? So the son, the youngest son, Andre, he starts to do little kid things, talking to himself. Imaginary friend named Trey, and the mom, because she's so much in what she got going on, she's not really looking into what her youngest son is going through, and she pretty much brushes him off, and she's kind of hostile and telling him go about his business and go get in his room. She's hollering at the son, hollering at the kids all the time, and they're the oldest ones. They're getting tired of her behavior, and in comes Monique, who is the case manager person for Ebony and her kids, where she has to come in and monitor the family's situation and see what's going on in the household. Now, the moments that she show up, there's another lady who's the apostle James. She is showing up to the house too, and she's looking, and she sees this family in this house, and so things start happening. Little things start happening. Trey's waking up not Trey, I said Trey. Andre's waking up in the middle of the night, and he's going to the basement, but nobody's paying attention to him. And so the mom is sometimes drunk, and you don't know if she's thinking real time. She's hearing things in the house, but going in the house and doesn't see anything. So the mom is not making her case better. So it makes it look like she's getting worse with her drinking. And so as things start to progress, little things start to happen. There was a black crow that got killed. And then a little boy looked at the crow. Little boy sitting in the backyard having a full-blown conversation with his imaginary friend, supposed to be named Trey. And the mom is really blowing that stuff off. The grandma is having chemotherapy in the town. In comes Michael Epps' character, who's like a care associate at the clinic. The mom find out that her daughter's been taking on paying her chemotherapy bills, but the last 2 months she hasn't been able to make the payment, and the grandma pretty much was like, well, Medicaid, I got to call them people, and they said, well, we stopped taking Medicaid over a year ago. Basically, your daughter's been paying this all this time up until the last 2 months. So she found out that, and of course you got the strained relationship between the mom and the daughter. The mom was abusive to Ebony, so Ebony carried that on to her kids. So the mom is trying to correct the error of her ways, supporting her daughter, but the daughter Ebony is constantly reminding her how she grew up. And basically the grandma is saying, yeah, like I apologize the way I grew up, but Why do you gotta inflict that on your children? So this is like, it get kind of deep where you're looking at generational curses, and a lot of people are dealing with um, trauma from their childhood, and it's carrying over generation to generation, and they're inflicting whatever they've been through on their children or the next generation, and they never really went and sought out and got the true help that they needed to fix themselves, or to help them cope what they went through to fix themselves so they could be a better person towards the next generation or their family or the people they closest to. They just wing it. But a lot of that stuff starts to come out. And that's like true fact. And that could be with anybody's family. But this is what's happening here. So Ebony really never got the true, because she had visions of basically where her mom let, I think, somebody molest her. It really don't get deep into it, but it shows like she was dealing with that. She let somebody molest her, and by letting her molest her, she always dealt with that. She always had, she resented her mother for that. So back to the storyline. So all these things is happening. So at one, the daughter had a birthday party. And during the party, the mom's drinking, enjoying herself. They hear this boom, boom. Come to find out, you look at the son. The son has a big knot on his head because he was hitting his head against the wall. He was in the basement. And the mom like, what you doing? But this doesn't look good because it makes it look like the mom is doing abuse. So you had the daughter, she woke up, she had scratches on her. So they think the mom did that. And they said, so when Monique's character, which is the case manager, she comes in and she's basically asking where these bruises come from on your children. And all the kids say they don't know because they don't remember because they was possessed during the time they was getting them. So one of the moments took place where the mom was drunk and she was asleep, and she kept hearing all this banging and stuff. And then when she finally woke up, she came in, and the son, the oldest son, was drowning the younger son. And so while she was drowning him, he was drowning, he couldn't get her off him. So when she came and finally got the older son, Nate, off of the younger son, Andre just rose up and looked in the water and looked over at his older brother with a stoic look, with no effect on him, no emotion. And so what you find out is that the devil was taking over. He wanted the little boy, was taking over the little boy, and he was possessing his older siblings. You find out that the woman who kept showing up to the house, that she was like an exorcism type of affiliate, just in a different form. In a Omen and the Exorcism movie, you had the priest who was doing this type work. They wore the robe and whatever, but she was called herself the Apostle James, and she didn't wear a robe, and she was she didn't have that look that you typically see. And so she was telling Ebony, hey, it's an evil force in your house and you need to listen and save your family. Ebony at first wasn't receptive to any of it. She just told her she was crazy and leave her family alone. So what happened was, one night, Ebony was drunk and she ended up tossing all her kids against the wall, doing some damage. The grandma came in, and the grandma was like, get out of here. So when that happened, that pretty much shook things up. Now, it also was a moment where all three kids simultaneously went in and went off in school. Nate, the older brother, he was in school, he was in class. He just started laughing crazy, and when his teacher said that somebody passed away from AIDS, he just was laughing in her face. The sister who was in um, band, she went and said something crazy to the teacher, and then she started having like a menstrual cycle. And then the son, the little son Andre, he was in class, said he had to use the bathroom, went in the back of the class and did a number 2 in the classroom, threw his feces at the teacher and ate the other feces. So that was like a crazy scene. And all these kids did this simultaneously. So they had them all checked, and the kids came out that nothing was wrong with them. They talked normal, but they figured they was under stress at the house from her. That's why they acted out like this, and that they was doing things that she wanted them to do. So that happened. Then you take it to the part where they pretty much she snapped at them and threw them against the wall, but that was the devil taking over possession. And so the kids end up getting taken from Ebony. When they was taken from Ebony, that triggered her to go see the apostle show, because the woman said, you're gonna need her, you're gonna need me. So when Ebony before that happened, she left out with her kids in a car and was driving in the rain. And when she looked in the rearview mirror, she looked at the son, his eyes turned black, and that scared her. She veered off the road, ran into a restaurant, said, they're trying to kill my kids. And they're like, who? And she went out there, and the kids was just in the car, and they played normal. And so they figured she's going crazy. And so, of course, they writing her off as she's going crazy. Now, the oldest kids, they sent them to like a foster care church. The youngest they kept behind. I forgot the reason why they kept the youngest behind. When they kept him behind, they had him on straps. He was foaming at the mouth, like real exorcism stuff, foaming at the mouth, talking crazy, saying anything. And so this is when Ebony went to the Apostle James and pretty much told her, like, basically, I need you now. So when Apostle James met up with Ebony earlier in the film, she did tell her the story. There was a family that lived in that house 20 years ago, and she was trying to help them then, and they had a son, his name was Trey, and things start happening with the family, and what ended up happening is the mom went off one night, and it possessed the mom, and she chopped the husband's head off and then went and killed the kids or whatever. So, and it showed that scene right there with the mom chopping her husband's head off and then coming back to reality like, oh no, I can't believe what I did. Then when the little girl came and seen what happened, she chased the little girl. So she was saying like the devil wants her son, and he wants your little boy, and he's not going to stop until he gets your son. So that took place. So now, while this is all going on, and Ebony is getting Apostle James, Andre, which is the younger son, is in the hospital, strapped down, and Monique's character, the case manager for CPS, she comes in and she's coming to try to talk to him, but she's seeing all the foaming of the mouth. Here he's been talking crazy, so she's like, what is going on? And Cynthia. So she's the social worker. I keep saying case manager, but case manager and social worker could be considered the same thing in a sense. But social worker. So she goes in, she's trying to talk to Andre, and he talks to her because she had a son named Julius that passed away when he was 7 or something like that. And he said, yeah, he's with you all the time. And she like, who? He like, your son Julius. And she like, how did you know that? Did your mom tell you that? He like, no, B. So he starts talking to her, so she knows something is off. So she's still trying to act like she's not witnessing what she's witnessing. She's trying to talk to him from the form that he's Andre. And so he started laughing, and you can see the black coming out of him. And he broke out of the straps. He broke out of the straps, jumped on the ground, and you know how exorcism, like, the original exorcism, it had the possessed little girl walk weird frontward. So what they had this one do, he did some Spider-Man stuff. He jumped on the ground and then he jumped backwards up on a wall and proceeded to climb up the wall backwards. So, that was the highlight for that scene right there. But then as Cynthia left, she was talking to the doctor, and he tried to blow it off like it wasn't nothing. Like, she like, what are you talking about? Do you know what I just seen? So never left. Ebony and Apostle James had the plan. Ebony dressed up like a nurse, slip in the hospital. Now this part was bogus. Now this scene just happened. You had the nurses in the hospital say they're not going in the room with the little boy. He's no longer strapped to anything. They don't got no type of surveillance underneath this little boy. And Ebony slips in playing as a nurse, grabbed her son, left, and drove off in a car with Apostle James. Meanwhile, you had the doctor come in with the security. By that time, Ebony had already took him. Now they headed Apostle James, Ebony, and Andre's headed back to the house. Then they lock Andre up in chains. And so Apostle James pretty much saying, man, I got the power where all I gotta do is touch him, and that demon come up out of him. And so she broke it down to Ebony, no matter whatever you see, don't get caught up in it. It's not your real whoever. This is the demonic spirit. So they start praying, and I missed the part. I skipped the part where Lucifer took over Andre and he killed the grandma. Yeah, so the grandma was home one day. Ebony was out at a bar. Or no, she was out talking to Apostle James. While she was out talking to Apostle James, the mom was sensing the spirit in the house. So she went and put up a cross. Ebony refused it at first, but she put the cross up. And then she went and grabbed her Bible. And so Lucifer took over Andre. He killed the grandma and pretty much laughed at her when she had the Bible and the cross that she had. He set that on fire or whatever. So back to the exorcism at the end. And so she told Ebony, no matter what you see, don't get caught up. It's not your actual people. So when an apostle touched Andre in the chains, he instantly starts steaming hot. So she started throwing the holy water on him. He starts steaming hot. And then he changed into the grandma. But of course he had devil fangs, devil eyes, and she started talking stuff to Ebony. But he still was flashing the holy oil on him, trying to cast the demon out of him. The devil ended up killing Apostle James, throwing her across. She told Ebony, go upstairs, don't come down. No matter what, I'm going to fight this demon. And so she pretty much got tossed all around the house, broken all up. And when Ebony came back downstairs, the demon wasn't there or whatever. So she gave Ebony some holy holy oil, holy water, and said pretty much it defeated me again. I still had fear, and that's why it got me or whatever. So she told Ebony, you can't have no fear towards it. So Ebony, he was the little boy now, and Andre, and she pretty much was um, coming to talk to him, and so he started beating her up, and then she ended up going in the basement. Now finally, this is her first time going in the basement, and now when she go in the basement, there's a big hole in the basement. Now Andre earlier in the movie had already mentioned it's a hole in the basement, like he comes out of the hole in the basement, and she never went down there to investigate. This is a big hole in the basement, and he's down there now. This is the moment of truth. Ebony versus her son. She's throwing the holy water on him. He knocked the holy water out, and then instead of him maintaining the son, the devil turned into her. But it was the dark version of her, and it just beat her up real bad, threw her all around the basement, and then eventually, when it was about to kill her, she screamed out Jesus, and she accepted full, strength from the Lord and to take over. And then that's what, she started reflecting on her kids, and that's when she got the power of God to fight the demon. And then when she was fighting the demon, all the glass in the house broke out. Her other two children was wherever they was at in the church foster care. They were the son. He was stabbing himself and stabbing himself up, and the daughter, she was floating in the air with blood coming from her eyes and her mouth. And so the demon was really working, and eventually what happened, Ebony cast the demon out, sent the spirit back to hell, and she was able to save her son. She was all beaten up. Of course, the authorities still took her kids, and Cynthia came, the social worker came in, told her, she got a battle ahead of her, but she got that faith, and of course, Ebony is delivered now, so she's saying, she got the faith, and that she gave Cynthia something to hold on to, that she gotta have faith and believe that everything's gonna work out. So it shows 6 months later, she got her kids back, and she said the kids was moving back to Philly and start fresh. And that's how it went off. And then afterwards, it showed that this was based off true events, and it showed the actual woman who went through this, and it showed the house that that this took place in, some Amityville horror type time. And the house has since been demolished, but they say it's still like weird occurrences that happen around the house and stuff like that. So this was a decent film. I don't typically review horror type, demonic type films and stuff like that, but I did give it a shot. I did give it a review. So out of my 4-star rating system, I give this movie a 2.5 out of 4 stars. This movie actually could have went to the theaters. I heard it went to some theaters, but if it had more, I guess more of a budget, more of a push, it could have went to the theaters. And this is actually, I like to have seen it come out like the end of September or October 1st, around that timeline. It could have went to the theaters in around Halloween season and fared way better than most people would have thought it would. I seen some some numbers on Rotten Tomatoes, like 5 out of 10. I don't know what they're looking at or whatever, except the color part of it, whatever. But I done seen many of films, horror films and stuff like that. So this is right online with all that horror thriller. Maybe because it wasn't a lot of killing in it. It was more possessive stuff going on. So maybe that's what they were looking at. But storyline, character build up, so you can understand what's going on. It ties to generational curses, people fighting with their demons inside, coming out externally. You got to deal with that. You got to cope. You know, you gotta find help, find ways to make yourself better for yourself and your family, your loved ones. So yeah, it had a lot of some good storyline. So like I said, 2.5 out of 4 stars. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment if you like the movie. Till next time.